Hey there, and a warm welcome to Get Indie Gaming and to part 5 of our 6-part series of the indie games we're most looking forward to seeing and playing in 2020. Be sure to let us know your favourite indie games you want to see down in the comments. Let's begin with Circuit Superstars, a top-down, physics-driven racer that combines classic arcade gameplay with realistic physics-driven handling. From 60s-inspired single-seaters to modern GT racers, Circuit Superstars features traditional time trial against the clock races, couch co-op and plenty more, including the management of your car's wear and tear and pit crew strategies. The team developing the game have more than 15 years in real motorsports experience behind them, and having played the demo at this year's EGX in London, it's clear this passion and expertise has been applied here in droves. If you loved the accessibility of arcade races of old and fancy mixing this up with the authenticity of modern motorsport sims, get yourself ready to race in 2020 when Circuit Superstars comes to home PC and all of the usual consoles. At number 9 in Yes, Your Grace, we have a kingdom management sim where you play the part of King Eric, ruler of a medieval realm inspired by Slavic folklore. As king, you face an uncertain future. You have no male heir to continue your legacy, and war is always just around the corner. Having had an hour or so playtime over the past couple of weeks, Yes, Your Grace, as far as kingdom management sims go, truly benefits from its stellar narrative and the stories you see and hear of the villagers and other petitioners who come and see you for help, advice, and assistance. Couple this with the nuanced needs of managing to forge alliances with other lords and of course hunters and witches to keep your kingdom safe, it really is up to you as king in how you decide what's really important. You can't keep everybody happy, and with minimal supplies this really does feel all like you're spinning plates, with one or two crashing to the ground should your attention wane in certain areas. Do you have what it takes to be a wise king, a true leader, father and husband? Well, you can find out in early 2020 on home PC, with consoles to follow. Next up at number 8, following a number of requests from viewers, we have Prodeus, the first and only FPS game within our list of those we're keen to see more of in 2020. Prodeus comes from a small team with a history in delivering AAA FPS games such as Call of Duty Black Ops series, Wolfenstein and Payday 2. Their stated aim with this new title is to bring modern AAA-inspired gameplay within a first-person aesthetic more in harmony with the graphical limitations of the consoles from a generation or two ago. From the looks of things, we can expect a truly visceral experience with plenty blood, guts and dismemberment when this comes out next year onto home PCs, with it perhaps coming to consoles at some point in the future. At number 7, and time for something completely different, squarely dripping with Monty Python imagery, kids ask your dads or most likely your grandparents, the Procession to Cavalry is the successor to Joe Richardson's critically acclaimed Four Last Things. While the Holy War is over with thousands killed and the churches of the old gods now in ruins, Heavenly Peter has escaped, and it's up to you to find him and we can suppose bring him to some kind of justice. Very much a traditional point and clicker, the Procession to Cavalry, while set in the same world as Four Last Things, is its own standalone story, meaning you can pick this up with ease should you have not played its predecessor. Sure, this looks all rather silly, and yet how good though does it all look? Featuring many Renaissance artworks from the likes of Rembrandt, Michelangelo, Botticelli and many more, all brought together within a consistent way that's said to remain sympathetic to the original works. The soundtrack is also a fine match for the visuals, with it featuring pieces by Bach, Vivaldi and Handel and many other period pieces as well. The Procession to Cavalry is due out next year onto home PCs. At number 6, and another game from the suggestions in the comment sections of earlier videos in this series, Book of Travels is like the game before it in this list. It's something rather different. It's described as being a TMO, or a tiny multiplayer online game. Having created your character, well, the rest is up to you, with there being no underlying plot as your guide. While touted again as an online multiplayer offering, like Journey and Sky, both from that game company, Book of Travels won't allow players to converse in the usual way, but will need them to learn and understand various symbols to be able to communicate with others. Of course, you don't need to bother with all of that. You're free to wander across the countryside alone, collecting a kind of XP by way of trading and gathering resources, and also from being kind and courteous to others. So that does suggest learning some form of communication will help your overall progress. There are battles and fights to be had here, although the developers have gone on record to say that while confrontations can be rewarding, you're more likely to learn more in defeat than you are in victory. We'll be honest, this looks a stunningly rendered game, and one we suspect we will play for the relaxation and discovery wow factors. Book of Travels is looking to release on Steam at some point next year. At number 5, and picking up the pace once more, is Death Carnival, which as you can see is quite the intense looking top-down arcade shooter. In a dark future, Death Carnival is the #1 show across the galaxy. People travel from all over to compete for fame, fortune and power. With a story-driven, procedurally generated single player, or up to 4 others and couch and online co-op, we really think the online and local PvP options will appeal most to us here at Get Indie Gaming. Going online will see up to 8 players battle things out with you and 3 other pals being able to do the same from the comfort of your home settee. The addition of Mixer and Twitch integration, well, that should also make this appealing for streamers. They will be able to let their viewers take control of certain areas of the game, which makes the potential for some great interactive player and viewer experiences. Death Carnival is likely to launch on Steam in August of next year, and boy would we love to see a port onto consoles at some point as well. Next up at number 4, well, to be honest, with Selfloss, there are more than a few question marks hanging over it. However, we wanted to give it a little signal boost in the hope more people get a chance to take a further look. As far as we can piece together, Selfloss is an adventure featuring an elderly man and his magic staff that's inspired by a fantasy setting, said to take inspiration from ancient Russia and the features of Iceland. You'll explore the world on foot or by way of your boat, as you make your journey from island to island, with the remains and leftovers from a war a few years before visible from time to time. Your staff is said to be central to the game's story and the overall mechanics, with it interwoven with everything you do. As for combat, well, again, your staff is key to the action. It's used in attack and defensive modes within a system that will also see a mix of strategy and dynamic components. So yeah, we suspect calling this a 2020 offering, well, it may be stretching things a little too far. If, like us, you want to see more on Selfloss, make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with this and all the other games featured in this video and series overall.
You done? Copy these papers.
Refill. Coffee.
Excuse me, intern, this is the workplace, not a standing place.
Oh, the new intern. Looking busy already. Nice lunchbox. Well, you don't mind me taking this, do you?
Moving into the top 3, and first up we have Say No More. And with its tricky phrasing, we have an office-based power fantasy we can really get behind. While on the face of things, a fun and perhaps silly looking game where you play as a new office intern, underneath, like any clever piece of satire, it's bubbling away with office politics, bullying and power balances seen all too common within the workspace. We love the idea of the intern going up against the managers and other people within the so-called leadership team, and the use of the main character finding a self-help cassette tape on saying no more often, within a world where saying no is essentially outlawed, is a great little touch. As you play, you find more of these tapes, which gives you power boosts and more ways in saying no, more often. This one should be out at some point next year by way of Steam and iOS, although we'd not be too surprised if it didn't make its way onto other platforms for launch or at some time soon after. At number 2, Iron Harvest is a classic real-time strategy game set in an alternate reality soon after the First World War, with it featuring roughly 30 or so steam-powered mechs and exoskeletons. Iron Harvest had a playable demo at Gamescom in late August, with it attracting large crowds to their impressive-looking booth on the main show floor. The single-player option has more than 20 missions across 3 separate campaigns, and also features 9 different heroes. It looks decent enough and can be played in 2-player co-op should you want a mate to come and join you. We suspect, however, the long-term draw of Iron Harvest will be the competitive multiplayer. With all good RTS games, there's so much going on here. It's easy to see how new players and those not used to this type of game could quickly be overwhelmed. The action is relentless, often insanely brutal, as you should really expect. And while we don't usually drift towards too many RTS games, there's something here that feels like a Goldilocks just kind of right moment. We're keen to play more when it comes to home PCs, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One in September. At number 1 in this penultimate episode in our most wanted indie games out in 2020, Axiom Verge 2 was a huge surprise announcement at the end of the recent Nintendo Indie Showcase from December 12th just gone. Aside from what the info on the Switch eShop says, there's not too much to report on this successor to the number 2 indie game we've ever played, and to be honest that doesn't bother us one little bit. We can however expect plenty of action platforming, lots of enemies to fight and stunningly rendered pixel art. At the moment the game seems a Switch exclusive, although it seems unlikely it won't also come out on other platforms at some point towards the end of next year. With that short and concise overview of Axiom Verge 2, that's all we have time for in today's video. Please give the like button a little tickle and subscribe if you haven't already done so. As for why, well, it really does help to bring more people into this wonderful indie game community, which also drives awareness of the scene as a whole. Many thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all here again soon for more indie game videos.